Hi everyone, I'm Tony. Hope it's a great evening wherever you're at. Today we're going to run through the basics of making a cappuccino, which is 1/3 espresso extracted from an espresso machine and 1/3 steamed milk and 1/3 foamed milk. So again, we'll make a cappuccino. And we're going to be using today a Gaggia classic espresso machine. Pretty simple, only 3 switches. The first one on the left is a power switch, which you turn power on to the unit. And the second switch of the 3 is a steam switch to change the water in the boiler to steam for foaming and heating your milk. And the third button is to brew espresso. So let's get started. Basically, rule number 1 here, do not ever run your espresso machine with an empty water reservoir. You will ruin the pump in the machine. So never turn this power button on unless you have water in the reservoir. I've already put that in earlier. There's a lid over the top of the machine and I filled it up to the maximum water line. And we're ready to go. So the first thing we want to do is get water into this boiler. So we're going to turn on the power switch and it will light up on this particular unit. And then the steam button next, and then the brew button also. All 3 on at once, and the machine will begin to make some noise. And what we're going to do at that point is open the steam valve on the unit and let water come out of the steam valve down into a suitable container. And we're going to run about half of the water into this container and then switch to get some of the water out of the brew head underneath the machine where the coffee will eventually come from. So let's get started. We're going to do this and turn on our wand and start getting the boiler filled with water. I'm opening the steam valve. And water is coming out. You can't really see that right now, but water is coming out. So if it's coming out, it's beginning to fill the boiler. We're going to let this go for a few seconds until we get about half this cup full. Then I'm going to shut the valve down and put the cup under the brew head and continue to pull water through there until the boiler is completely filled. So we're getting close to about halfway. So we're going to turn this steam valve off, and I will put it underneath the brew head, and then turn the steam knob, which is in the center, to the off position. And that will force water through the brew head into the cup, and we'll let that fill a little bit. And when we're done with that, we'll stop the machine by turning the brew button off. And then we've got the boiler filled and we'll let it heat for a little while and then get started with the espresso extraction. So we're just about there. A couple of more seconds here and we'll turn the brew button off. Okay, the noise has gone away and the power button is the only button that's on, and the cup now has, you can probably see swirling in there, water now filled up. We're going to empty that out in the sink. And once we've emptied it out, now it's time to make espresso. And that's what we're going to do. I'm using some espresso beans, light roast, that I picked up from Fiddleheads here in Glendale, and it's a light roast. And what I did was use a grinder. I have a Barazza Preciso grinder that I use, and a grinder is an absolute necessity if you are going to make good espresso. Excuse me, just going to pick up some water from the steam wand here. The Gaggias tend to leak a little bit through the steam wands. So I get espresso, and this I'm holding is a porta filter. It fits into the group head underneath this machine. Again, porta filter, And you can see my ground coffee is in the portafilter, and I have tamped it down with a handy tamper, kind of like this kind of action, with about 30 pounds of pressure, and that compacts the coffee. And I'm going to take this portafilter and insert it into the brew head. I start to the left, and it just ratchets over and now hangs from the brew head, and we are waiting for that for a couple of minutes only to preheat. So bear with me here while I take care of some pedestrian tasks, and I'll be right back. What I'm going to do in preparation now is get some milk for steaming to make our cappuccino with. %2 milk, 2%. You can make espresso milk-based drinks with 1% or skim. 2% is better, and whole milk is better yet for the richest, most creamiest flavor. So I'm going to pour a few ounces of milk into the steaming jug, and we'll set that aside. So you see I've got milk in there. So we'll put this away. I'm back. So now we have the milk is going to be ready to go. And first we're going to extract our espresso. I'm feeling under the group head now, and the portafilter is beginning to get warm. It should be a little warmer yet, so we'll wait on that about another minute or so. I will say in the meantime, while we are waiting, that the Gaggia Express machine that I have now is about 5+ years old, so it is worn very well. It's an Italian-made machine, and of course, espresso comes from Italy, folks. So it's a great drink, and the Italians are preeminent in making machines. And if you decide to get into this half art, half science, because it's a little bit of both, you'll find out that there are hundreds, literally hundreds, of espresso machines out on the market, and they range anywhere from a few dollars to a few or many $1,000s. For the home brewing market, the Gaggia Classic is an excellent entry-level machine, and you can go up from there as your expertise in making espresso and milk-based drinks grows. I won't say that a better espresso machine helps you to make better espresso. That doesn't necessarily follow, but what it does do is make life a whole lot easier for you. The Gaggia Classic is a fairly simple machine, and a lot of folks like that just fine, thank you. Other machines are more complex, but we don't really have to get into that. Like I said, that would take hours and hours of video to explain all about machines. So what we're trying to do here is just go through the process of setting up the machine to extract espresso. A few ounces is what we usually extract for a drink. And then depending on whether you drink it neat, meaning by itself, or you drink it as a milk-based drink, which we're going to do today with a cappuccino, that's your choice. And some people have one of these a day, and other people have many of them a day. I prefer 1 or 2 espresso-based drinks a day. So now in feeling underneath here, the portafilter is now too hot to touch. So we're going to take a little jug that you can put the espresso in, and we're going to stick it under the output of the portafilter. And now, when the machine is up to heat, which you can see on the last switch on the right is the brew switch, and it's a button with a light on it. So when it's lit up, the machine has come up to proper temperature, and the portafilter in the brew head is properly heated. So at this point, we're probably ready to extract some espresso. So I'm going to press down the brew button and let this do its thing. At this point in time, you probably can't tell from the video. The camera, I do apologize, is not quite close enough, but the espresso machine is making the noise, forcing water through the coffee grounds that are compacted in the portafilter, and 2 legs of espresso are coming out of the bottom of the portafilter into the cup. When this has extracted the appropriate amount of espresso, I will stop the process and I will push the steam switch on after I turn the brew switch off. So that will bring the residual water in the boiler up to heat, and we can get steam to foam our milk with. I'm going to get an essential tool. Hold on just a minute. A handheld thermometer. Essential for good espresso making. I think our extraction is just about done. So I'm going to turn that brew switch off and get some folded paper towel that I can put my grounds on after I remove them from the machines, so I can throw it out. So what we have here, I'll just put those towels under there. You can probably see this. Nice, really brown, caramel colored extraction of espresso. That's called crema on top, crema. And it's excellent. It's the essential oils extracted from the coffee along with all the flavor. Worth its weight in gold, folks. It's wonderful stuff. So now I'm going to take the portafilter out. This unit has a 3-way solenoid valve that when you turn the water pressure off, water will immediately be removed from the puck of grounds in the portafilter and directed into the drip tray. So we're going to remove this, and the puck is fairly dry. We're going to knock it out of the portafilter, clean the filter out, and set it aside for cleaning later. I'm going to wrap up the grounds and introduce them to the garbage. Okay, that having been done, now we're going to just wipe off the brew head underneath with a rag. Sometimes the grounds will get up into the brew head and you don't want them to stay there because that kind of interferes with proper coffee operation. So we're going to take care of that. And now that we've got it there, oh, the phone is ringing. For shame, for shame. Hold on a minute. Okay, out of area call. We're not going to answer that one. Okay, so what we're going to do now is flip the steam switch, which is the switch in the middle, to the on position. This is going to start superheating the water in the boiler and making steam out of it. This is the cup for our cappuccino. And we're going to take the thermometer and just stick it in the milk. And I will eventually hold this under the steam wand where the steam will come out. The milk will be heated to about 140 degrees of temperature. And that will ensure some nice creamy foam gets created. And then we're going to pull that off. We'll pour the espresso into our cappuccino cup. That's the bottom third. Then we're going to take our steamed milk and add that on top of the espresso, and then take the foamed milk and add it on top of that to complete making our cappuccino. So bear with me here as this comes up to temperature, and it is now because the light is on the brew switch, which is now kind of like the steam switch. So what we're going to do is put this underneath the steam wand and turn that steam wand on, and keep the head of the steam wand, the very end of it where the steam will come out, keep it just under the surface of the milk and allow it to heat the milk up. So here we go. You probably hear some noises. That is the head of the steam wand just under the surface of the milk, beginning to heat it up. And we've got it maybe to about 100 degrees now, so we've got a little ways to go. So we just move that around inside the milk and allow it to bring the milk up to temperature. If you don't have a thermometer, you can probably tell by the palm of your hand. When it's too hot to leave on the side of the jug, you can probably stop the steaming process for the time being. Still have a little ways to go yet. Please be patient with me, we will get there. So this is producing some nice foam at this point. Espresso enthusiasts call this micro foam. And it is also worth its weight in gold. How I wish it weighed more. It adds tremendous flavor and texture to your cappuccino, or your latte, or your macchiato, or whatever it is that you happen to be making. So we're up now to about 120 degrees, so about 20 degrees more to go. I've got a nice layer of foamed milk on top of this, so things are looking good. I'm going to actually put it down on the counter now because the level of the expanded milk has come up enough to allow me to just leave it on the counter while the steam continues to bring the milk up to heat. Now the boiler on this unit is not very big, so after the initial steaming we will have to flip 2 switches at once to fill the boiler with water again and allow it once again to come up to steam heat, and then we will re-steam after we get the cappuccino put together. All right. So we're now at about 140 degrees. So we're going to turn the steam off, remove the thermometer, and take the milk out from under this and show it to you. We've got a nice foamy little layer of milk. So we're going to take our previously extracted espresso and we're going to pour it into the cup, the cappuccino cup, for the bottom layer. Looks good. So now we're going to put the spoon on the jug like this and pour out steamed milk. We're not going to let any foamed milk get in there, or as little as possible. So we're going to do that. I like a lot of milk in my cappuccinos. So now we're going to take the foam from the glass. I'm going to lay that right on top of that second layer of steamed milk. Until we get something that looks akin to this. Wonderful. We're going to take the residual of the espresso that comes from the cup, and we'll just put a little decoration of dark essential coffee oils on top of the cappuccino. And there, folks, we have a finished cappuccino at 140 degrees. Wonderful. Ciao.